Hey, Zach, welcome to the show. As way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Hey, Brian. Thanks so much for inviting me on the show. I really appreciate it. My name's Zach Fellerman. I'm an account executive here for Paylocity in San Francisco. We're an HRIS and payroll software company. I'm an account executive representing San Francisco.
Cool. How'd you get interested in sales?
So my interest in sales was kind of, I guess, organic. You know, when I was in college, I went to UCLA. I was planning on going into law. I never thought of going into sales. It didn't even kind of pass my, it wasn't on my plate. So out of college, worked for a law firm for about a year, quickly realized that there were some areas of law that I liked. However, the parts I really liked were the business development side, and less so the paperwork and the day-to-day things that I'd be doing for my first 10 years in the profession of law weren't exciting to me. So I moved to Portland, became a project manager, worked a lot with different firms like Nike, running events, customization events. Again, loved the business development side, the relationship building, was not a fan of taking orders every day as a position. So, following somebody else's kind of instructions, constantly following others rather than kind of making my own destiny, it kind of led me into the sales profession because I kept realizing what I liked and what I didn't like. And what I kept liking was business development, meeting people, building relationships, and less so the minutia of following kind of a process. I wanted to create my own process.
And what is your sale like? Who do you sell to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we sell into HR and finance for the most part. So I'm selling a payroll system, right? A payroll software. It's also an HRIS system. So anything from hire to retire. So the nice thing about selling a solution like that is every company needs payroll, right? There's not a company out there that doesn't have payroll, right? If you have employees,
Hopefully.
you're paying people. And so you largely sell into the HR world. So people who are interested in the onboarding experience, the employee engagement experience, and then obviously the accounting side for payroll and finance. So yeah, mainly selling into the finance and HR world.
And who are you typically targeting there? Is it the
Yeah,
user or the leader? Or?
It's the decision makers. So it's typically the administrators. So whether that is somebody who's maybe processing payroll or somebody who's cutting the check, right? So the finance side is going to want to look over the cost and the way it's going to simplify their process. The thing about Paylocity is we are very much meant to make an organization run more smoothly from a high level. So everything from hire retire, as long as it touches the employee, which it does, whether it's, the onboarding experience, performance tools, compensation tools, and then obviously getting paid, it's important to that individual. So I'm usually selling into the person who's the administrator or, the person who's end up cutting the checks on the finance side.
And how many times do you run into green fields where they don't have any type of software, where they're doing it by hand versus they've already picked a vendor, but you guys are better for some reason?
Great question. I am very fortunate to work in San Francisco. As you know, San Francisco, very tech-forward city. So I would say 95% of the time I go into an organization, they're already outsourcing their payroll. So they're using some organization to already do this. So my value prop is, how is your process working? Is it streamlined? Is it running smoothly? And if not, why are you looking to possibly make a change to a new outsourced payroll and HRIS system?
And how much of your business is inbound versus you doing cold outreach?
So I've been very fortunate to build a strong referral channel. So we partner very heavily with financial advisors, with benefit brokers, employee benefits, with CPAs, banks, because we're largely selling systems and complementary services. So I'll give you an example. So a benefits broker, right, they're selling employee benefit plans. They're, selling their service in order to get the best benefit plans, pricing, structuring it. I'm selling a tool that also has a benefit enrollment platform. So it can actually enroll in benefits and have those EDI file feeds to the carriers. Because of that, it makes a really great relationship to be able to work with benefit brokers because they want to have a system that's an easy experience for their mutual clients. Very similar to financial advisors, we have 401k record file transfers. Really, what that means is we can have a sync with a record keeper to make 401k deferrals automatic, right? So without any user input. Because of that, We work really well with advisors. So I would say 70% of my business now is a referral channel, where I'm working really heavily with my partners, creating, long-term partnerships where we provide mutual value. And then I'd say about 15% is inbound, and 15% is, still me hitting the phones and emails and marketing campaigns, et cetera.
So that partner network, does that probably helps you block out the competition?
Absolutely. I mean, if you can ever get a warm lead into a
Yeah.
company where somebody's already vouching for you, whether it's a mutual prospect of theirs or it's a client of theirs, it's always much, much nicer to have that warm intro. And that's what I do for my partners as well. Because once you build that rapport, it's an easier sell, of course. At the end of the day, people selling to people is always the easiest way, rather than just feature dumping or something like that.
Uh, Now that persona, either the HR or the finance, they're not exactly the most dynamic and open people, are they?
I'll tread lightly on that. Um, it really depends. I've met a lot of future thinking HR people where they're truly trying to make the best experience for their employees, and payroll and accounting, the payroll side platform to increase productivity and make an organization run better. And that's the fun part for me. And a lot of the HR people I work with are absolutely thinking for that next level of engagement.
And how long does the sales process typically take?
So I've had some clients that are, near the 500 employee space. So one thing, Brian, is I sell pretty much between 50 and 500. And then we have an enterprise division. So it sells 500 plus, really goes to any employee count. In the under 500 space, I would say mine ranges from a 1 or 2 call close for maybe a 10, 15 person company, up to a 3 month, I'd say, sales cycle, which would, account for an introductory meeting, discovery, finding out current processes. I'd say 2 or 3 demonstrations where we're actually diving into the solution, showing our product, asking more questions and showing value. And then maybe a meeting or 2 around pricing and implementation. So, we're talking between maybe 5 and 7 meetings for those larger clients. And for the smaller clients, it really can just depend.
And do your deals often get stuck or slow down, or?
They can. One of my jobs, right, is to keep the sales cycle going and make sure the conversation's moving in a positive direction. It doesn't mean I haven't had prospects where they're looking and very engaged, and then they've had a change, right? And a different HR consultant comes in and tries to fix their current solution. So a deal can stall, but I've been pretty successful in keeping the process going and showing that value and showing why our product will truly streamline their process and make everybody's lives easier.
And how often do you run into competition?
Everywhere. So there's a lot of competition in the
Yeah.
payroll. Yeah, the payroll HR space. I came from actually staffing sales before. So I was bringing on businesses for a staffing firm, Kelly Services, then I had a team of recruiters. I was doing that for Northern California for a little over 2 years. And, that's a tough business, right? Because it's hard when you're selling people, so to speak, especially on the commercial side, to show how you're truly different. So when I came into this world of the technology side, it was just a breath of fresh air, because while there might be other companies out there selling payroll and HR, we have a true distinguishing factor when it comes to our technology and service. I've been able to portray that to my prospects and clients, and because of that, I'm bringing on a lot of new business. So I don't really care who's in the door. It's good to know who, but I truly feel that in our space, there's not a technology that's going to beat me.
So you have what I call lockout, something that you have that they care about that no one else has.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the biggest things that a company is looking for, ease of use. They want a system that is easy to use from the employee perspective as well as the supervisor, because not everybody's an IT expert, right? Then they want to have a lot of functionality. They want to have the ability to do integrations, right? What I mean by integrations is, say a company is using also a local ATS company, Lever. Have you ever heard of Lever before? It's a recruiting tool. So they're a recruiting tool. And say a company's growing and they love using Lever. While I have an ATS tool internally that we've built that I can sell, we have an integration with Lever. So that way there's a seamless transfer of data back and forth. There's not many companies in our space at our size that are able to build that integration and keep it simplified and streamlined for the mid-market. It puts us in a very unique space. I'm able to offer a very easy to use system, a very good to look at system. It looks incredibly fancy. You know, we make a ton of enhancements and we still give that ability to integrate. And that's a pretty big distinguishing factor here, especially in San Francisco.
Cool. And what do you think distinguishes you as a sales rep?
Great question. I work pretty hard. You know, I think there's a couple things. One, I've found truly what I love to do. I love building relationships. I love providing value. I love feeling like I'm helping organizations and helping down to the person who's running payroll. I love the feeling of being able to help them. And I love winning and I hate losing. And so what makes me different as a salesperson, I would say, is I love what I'm doing. I'm working all the time because I love it. I'm not somebody who's forcing myself to respond to an email at 10 o'clock. I'm responding at 10 o'clock because I want to be the person that they can rely on. I want to be the person who will work above and beyond to be able to help my clients and prospects. And I want to provide that value and give the best service, the best support. And I want people to know that about myself, that Zach's going to be the person who's going to be there to take care of us. And it's such a simple thing, but I think it's a unique aspect. And I've been told this by some of my clients is that technology is great, service is great, but truly the person who's able to sum it up in a way that they feel comfortable, where the sales process feels comfortable and they think the person truly cares, I think it is a differentiator. And I think it's a big reason why I've been successful in my short time here so far.
And why do you care? Because that is a big differentiator.
Yeah. I have a 3-year-old son. I live in the Bay Area. I'm a young father. I work out of a very small 2-bedroom apartment. And I'm looking to be able to afford what I want to afford in life. I want a house. I want my son to get a great education. I don't want to have any stress financially as a family. And I love feeling like the best. I always want to be the best version of myself. I always want to compete. And I want to provide value. And I think those aspects in the background, my son, my family, and the ability to be able to provide a better life for my family, those are all driving factors for me.
This was something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where'd this come from? Was there either your childhood through sports or adversity or?
I've had some adversity. I had a great childhood. I kind of always thought of myself growing up that I'd wear a suit. That's all I ever knew. Growing up is.
Yeah, me too.
yeah. That's all I ever thought was, I'm going to wear a suit. I'm going to do something professional. My dad's an attorney. My mom was an attorney as well. And I always thought to myself, I'm going to do that. So I'd say it's more of the adversity side. I'm a cancer survivor. I've had a child very young. I have a lot of things that have shown me that life's not guaranteed. I want to fast track my future. I want to be as successful as I can possibly become. I get a great deal of pride from what I'm doing and the way I feel about myself, being able to be successful so far in my career. And it's a huge driving factor for me because I'm not going to let anything get in my way. And I think that has been shown from kind of my past experiences and how I want to succeed in my life.
Because, sales and law have a lot in common where you have to think the way the other person would think.
Yeah, sure.
Because otherwise you're not going to be able to lock somebody out of the account. You got to be able to debate without offending people. You got to questioning.
Very true.
Right. And questioning in a structured, layered way versus just random.
Right.
Yeah. Have you found that correlation or?
I have. So I would say it's very similar to law. I would say somebody who's able to be successful in especially litigation is going to be very successful in sales. You have to sell to your audience. You have to tiptoe and be careful in certain situations to make sure you're working the room. Whether it's a presentation, whether you're in front of a jury, it really doesn't matter. My parents always said to me from a very young age that they had a hard time debating with me from the age of maybe 5, 6 years old, where I would have I would have a solution or a point to anything that they would bring up. And you know, a quote I said to them, probably no more than 10 years old, was, "You'll never beat me. The best you can do is tie." That's something that they still bring up to me on a very regular basis, is just that mentality that you have to come to a middle ground. You have to see what the other person sees and come up with a solution that can make both parties feel that they've gone something positive out of it. I think that's very similar between law and sales.
Yeah, and also that winning and losing, that it's kind of binary. And
Yeah,
sales, and in law, right? Because
yeah,
a lot of times you work on contingency,
yeah,
and
absolutely,
certainly your reputation
absolutely,
is based about winning. And
absolutely.
I like that you said both things, that you love winning and you hate losing. Is one stronger driver than the other?
You know, it's hard because every opportunity I go into, I have the opportunity to lose. Um, you know, I would say that it's kind of one and the same for me, is that I don't want to lose any opportunity, right? If I lose, sure, I can keep a relationship for the future and I can get something out of it, right? They know who I am. They like our product. I can create a long-term relationship with them if they ever change. But losing is more of a driving factor for me, I would say, because winning something that comes when you do a good job and you try really really hard. Losing can happen the same reason when you're trying really hard and you just don't get to that outcome that you're kind of expecting. And I try to avoid that at all costs. It's one and the same kind of for me, but I'd say the most painful thing for me is losing a deal and then trying to figure out what I did wrong. I think that's a big part of losing as well, is at least getting that insight.
Yeah, because you paid the lesson.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
paid for the lesson. Did you get the lesson? Did you learn from it?
yeah,
Or are you
absolutely.
just gonna, a lot of people, just forget about it and then repeat it.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. I'd say from every single deal I've lost, and I've lost a handful, is I want to understand every bit of it. Why? Is it a product limitation? Is it something the other sales rep was saying or showing you that I might not have been? Maybe my presentation decks weren't as succinct, or I wasn't covering the areas that your decision makers were looking for. I absolutely try to get that insight, because I mean, I might spend two months on a deal, 3 months on a deal. I don't consider it a waste of time as long as I figure out the reason and I can make that adjustment and keep that relationship for the future. That, at the end of the day, is still a mild win in my book, at least getting that insight.
So what else do you see yourself doing differently than most salespeople?
Okay. Besides the work ethic part, and the organization, I would say, go ahead.
Uh, And when you say the work ethic, because anyone can work hard, right?
Of course, of course. I would say it's the fact that I'm putting in more than other sales reps may be in my competition in my area. That is what I've seen. Um, you know, I'm the person who's going to be sending emails on a Sunday afternoon to do tasks that I need to follow up on Monday. I'm always staying incredibly organized. You know, every single day I have a to-do list and I follow that to a T. I do not let that slip. I create to-do lists, whether it's a Sunday for a Monday, to be able to be prepared for that Monday. I'm always staying on top of what needs to be done. It's really following the basics for me, which is staying organized, following through with any follow-up items I might need to show, staying consistent with the flow and providing the value that I tell them I'm going to from the beginning, and then follow the process that I've been taught from my director and my management, which I think is a pretty excellent process. So I really do think the work ethic and the organization are the two biggest factors in why I've been succeeding so far here at Paylocity.
And how do you prevent getting burnt out when you work that much?
Uh, Great question. You know, I've been here a year. I've been here a year and 3 months. I think as long as you enjoy what you're doing, I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy building partnerships. I enjoy getting to know my partners, going out to lunch, meeting their families. I mean, really building long-term partnerships, mutual wins. It's something that I just enjoy doing. It's almost part of my daily life where, you know, it almost doesn't feel like work to me. It truly feels like something I enjoy doing, and I get a commission out of it, you know? So at this point in my career, um, obviously I have to learn maybe a little bit more how to balance the family side of it as well. But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm doing my best and trying to keep both as a priority in my life. And And I feel pretty confident that I'm going to be able to keep this going because I feel like I enjoy what I'm doing.
And what do you think you know about sales that most people don't get?
I've learned from some great mentors. I think one thing that I've learned is always to keep learning and keep taking feedback in a positive manner. I'll give you an example. I had a demonstration with 2 prospects yesterday, both around 300 employees, and my director joined me with them. And, I've run well over 100 demonstrations, I would say, in the last year. I feel like I've gone the process pretty darn organized and clean. And I left the demo feeling, pumped up, like these were perfect. I got it. They were engaged, all the right questions. And she just brought up several things to me on it, ways to maybe increase conversation at the beginning of the demo, get people discussing and opening themselves up to me also before we kind of get things kicked off. She brought up 3 or 4 points, and taking that information in and truly making a change on it and always evaluating my process and always being able to streamline it, make it more succinct, make it cleaner. That's something I don't think I'm ever going to get over. I think I could be in this 20 more years and I'm still going to be able to value that feedback and improve my process. I've been doing sales almost 4 years in project management, 2+ years before that. And, there's always more you can learn, whether it's books about self-improvement, books about sales process, about psychology. There's always ways to be able to improve your sales process. And I think being open to that feedback is crucial.
And what I heard, what I really liked was that you welcomed it, because most people would defend and rationalize and justify why they did what they did instead of saying and being open to being better at it.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm naturally like that. I think it's something I've had to learn that. I'd say when I started out in my career and I got feedback, especially on the project management side, it's easy to say, oh, it's because of this, or, the process was different. It's not normally like that. I typically, there's a lot of ways that you can make an excuse and run around. At the end of the day, if feedback is constructive and not a dig at who you are as a person, but how you can improve and get better, that is the most valuable thing anybody can take in. And so, I would say my reaction to it 3 years ago might have been a little bit more defensive. I've learned very quickly that the only way to improve is by taking in feedback of others, because you might not always see it yourself.
And it is the best, because most people won't give it to you.
Yeah.
Your clients won't.
Yeah.
Most bosses won't, because they don't want to hurt your feelings and jeopardize the relationship. But the person who can take that, because that is just gold, what they're giving you.
Yeah. I completely agree, especially when they're interested in seeing you succeed. I'd say I've been in some roles in the past where I would get feedback, and I don't know if it's simply because they're trying to help me or because they're trying to maybe put me down or make themselves feel some sort of way that they're able to, have the one up, that they know the best way and you don't. When you truly have a mentor or a coach or a director, a VP that wants to see you succeed, that sees great things in you and wants to help you improve your process, there's nothing to me that's more valuable. And I write down, she called me in the car and we talked a little bit more, and I pulled over on the side of the road and I literally wrote down every single bullet point she told me as well, because I don't want to forget that feedback. That's the most crucial thing for me to improve my process moving forward.
Yeah. I used to have a part of my post-mortem was, what could I have done better?
Yeah.
And because I always worked with an engineer, because the products were so technical.
Yeah.
And that was the most valuable for both of us. And I've had other people that can't take any feedback, so we jab each other a little in a fun way.
Sure.
And make fun of each other. But that cycle, because no presentation is ever perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody runs down to purchasing to buy your stuff right after it. Right? Yeah. There's a lot to be done. Yeah. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn, Zach Fellerman. That's probably the best way. There will be my phone number there, my email there. My goal is really to be the mayor of San Francisco, spread the word about Paylocity. So Any questions, or you want to know a little bit more about me, my background, or how we can help your business, yeah, feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn. My email is zfellerman@paylocity.com. So first, last name at paylocity.com, and anyone can reach me anytime.